Well met, everyone. I am Rich the Lich. Today I have a little fun fights video for you. Let's jump into it. Let's open up D&D Beyond, where I click on the Monsters tab. So you see we have 75 pages of monsters. I have all of the content on D&D Beyond, so all of the officially released monsters that are in all of the books will all be listed here. And you can see, as we see a monster's name, it shows you what book they come from. The Aarakocra from the Monster Manual. The Aarakocra Simulacrum comes from Storm King's Thunder, and so on. So with 75 pages of monsters, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a D&D dice roller, which is sort of just a randomization thing. I will roll D100. I'll ignore everything 76 and above. 65. So what I will do is I will navigate my way to page 65. There we have it, page 65. On each page, laid out, should be 20 monsters, but I'll count them just to verify. The Hungry is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 at Thorvin. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 monsters. Okay? So I will now roll a d20. Let's hope we don't get 20. I don't want to deal with Tiamat today. A 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The Lost. This is a creature from a medium monstrosity, neutral evil. Can be in basically any environment. From Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. So what I'll do is I'll click on this guy. He's a CR7. That's the first thing I want to consider, because that helps to inform me as to what rough level my group might be. Yes, of course, you can tweak things where this thing can be way beyond the level of your PC, so you have a low-level group, or this is just sort of a throwaway encounter where your PCs are level 13, and this is not going to be a big threat. Regardless, the point of this fun fight thing and doing it randomly is just to show you that without some forethought, pre-thinking, I'm doing it randomly. I don't know what monster is going to come up, but there's still the same creative process and principles that I can run through that can help make this thing a little more interesting than just a simple encounter where he's bad, you're heroes, your PCs are trying to kill him before he kills them. Does he miss? Does he hit? Who deals damage? We want to create a situation where the PCs say a year later, 2 years later, dude, do you remember that one lost encounter in that one room or that one place? Man, that was so cool when it did this, this, and that. So you want to just create some interest and some intrigue to this encounter. So first thing I'm going to do, if there's ever a picture accompanying it, I will look at that and see if that just gives me something. So there's definitely, I know it's a monstrosity, so there's an abomination Jekyll and Hyde thing going on here. So I like this, the pinchers. I'm trying to see if there's anything from media, movies, games that sort of reminds me of this. A little bit of the claw things, you know, the whatever, the pinchers, at the end, very Zergling-ish if I was to kind of block out the body. So I'm thinking StarCraft. I don't know if that informs me, but my mind is running. It's racing now. So good art. I'm now going to do a print screen and then over into the shop. I'm going to bring this guy in. I'm going to cut this out, the stat block, because we're going to refer to this for the video and use it. But also the intention is this page that you see on screen here is something I would bring with me to the table. It's what I would print out and use this as my reference sheet, and also where I'll write notes. You know, I'll track the hit points and so on and so forth, various conditions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through this guy and see if there's something here that resonates with me, that makes me think beyond just the mechanics and makes me kind of think about, man, that would be really neat. So he's the Lost. One moment. Blood of the Gods. A medium monstrosity. He's neutral evil. Okay. Armor class of 15. 78 hit points. It's pretty stacked. Normal speed, so no crazy fly or swim or anything like that. So normal terrain here. Stats, okay, athletics. He's got resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing while in dim light or darkness. There may be something there I'm going to run with. The resistance now makes those hit points worth a whole lot more, right? Because he's taking half damage, assuming that we're dealing with low light stuff. He's got dark vision, so that would make sense. If you're going to have low light as an advantage for him, then he's going to have to be able to see in that. Language is challenged, fine, multi-attack. He makes 2 arm spike attacks. That's those Zergling style. It's a melee weapon attack, normal reach, deals 2d10 plus 3 piercing. Okay, and then he has Embrace. It's melee weapon attack plus 6 hit. This one has a paragraph, so there's a lot here. Hold on. One target, 4d10 plus 3, and the target is grappled. If it's a medium or small, until the grapple end, the target is frightened, and it takes psychic damage. Okay, you rarely can resist that, even barbarian resistances and things like this. Okay, the lost can embrace only one creature at a time. All right. For now, I'm going to say there's one lost in this encounter. I'm not going to have multiple guys to deal with. But that embrace, if you fail that grapple check, ooh, that's a problem. Okay, and then tightening embrace reaction. If the lost takes damage while it has a creature grappled, ooh, okay, that's fine. But we need to grapple this guy. So he has an escape of DC 14. But let's take a look at something real quick. I'm going to use the... I'm not trying to sell you on D&D Beyond or anything like that, but the interface is really good, and especially when I'm doing a demo video, because I can just navigate my way through and find information quickly. Okay, dim light, lightly obscured area. Okay, so with dark vision, they can see in dim light as if it were bright light, and in darkness as if it were dim light. What I'm trying to create here, and I don't want to deal with this too much because now we're getting into something different from the monster, but there's something there with this thing. He's got dark vision. Okay. He has resistance while he's in dim light or darkness. This guy is going to have an advantage in the dim light in maybe getting that embrace to stick. Okay, because he's going to hit with this, right? Because if he doesn't hit, obviously there's no grapple attempt made. So, and then once you grapple, that's the whole encounter right there. If you're grappled, you're dealing with psychic damage. Even if as he's holding you, you try and break free from that, as it says here, you're going to take some damage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create sort of a chamber. All right, we're going to make this guy almost kind of squarish. It's some underdark. That was nice. I like that, actually. I don't know how I did that. I think I'd want to be able to duplicate that in the future. So there's some doors on both sides. Boom, 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 boom. And then there is, there's this thing. That's the objective. The bad guy is always red. He blocks the objective. The PCs are in blue. Three PCs. One lost. Sure, there's a long, winding, cavernous tunnel. Remember, this guy's environment is like anywhere, so this could be Underdark, whatever. But this... the room is dim light. Except for back corner. Which is entirely dark. Because of the relic. That's important. I'm going to underline that because I'm going to run with that. This objective thing, whatever the hell it is, it's some horrible... The PCs have to come in here and get this. There's something sitting on top of the altar, okay, which is the purple area. And somewhere in the purple area, there's something sitting on top of the altar, and it's this horrible object, some idol of a dark, fallen, evil god that creates darkness wherever it goes. And vampires seek it out, things of the night, the horrors and the whatever, okay? They need to get this thing. But there's some fake relics. There's one here. There's one here. They're everywhere. Number one, that creates some interest. The PCs aren't sure which of the ones is there. That's the actual one in the back corner. Not because it's bigger. I know I made it bigger, but they're all the same size. You know, they all look identical. You don't know which is which. But these fake relics. Okay, they're not what the PCs need. All it takes is the PC to be within 5 feet of it. Numerous fake relics. Spend action plus, 5 feet away to investigate. As long as they do that, I don't even care what the DC is. It can be a throwaway, right? Like, you can just, don't even tell them, just whatever they roll, it's good enough, right? Don't tell them that, because you want them to feel like, man, we need to get the guy over there who has the best to investigate. See where that goes? Always think about, this kind of digresses a little bit, but you need to understand the consequences on a die roll of not, success isn't always a given thing. Oh, the PCs are trying to accomplish something. You rolled high enough, you made it. But what happens when they fail that roll? If they keep failing investigate rolls and you make the DC something absurd and they fail it, they're never going to discern which is the real one. And the point of them being in the room is they need to get this thing. And it's going to feel like it's now going to turn into a tedious combat, right? So no matter what they roll on the investigate, they succeed. But don't tell them ahead of time it's a DC 4. Because you want them to also have to do some planning of saying, you know what, we need to make sure that it's our one wizard or the PC that has the best investigate going over there and checking those. And, your job for this fight is figure out which of those idols we need to grab. You see what I mean? Like, they're going to succeed at it by just spending, it's their turn. They're going to spend their action and they have to move up next to it. The investigate is a foregone conclusion, but go through that process. And the reason why there's numerous fake relics, each creates a bubble of darkness for 2 rounds. Okay? So this thing, it's a crude circle, but you get it. And I'm not going to draw the grid out, but you can have that be a 15-foot R or whatever it might be. This whole back room, back area, is, as I said, is all right here. Room is dim light except for back corner, which is entirely dark because of the relic. This is all black, all darkness. He's got dark vision, so he's able to have turned it into sort of dim light for him. But I'm just playing with the light mechanic in here, okay? Because he's got resistance when he's within this thing. So he's going to want to stay in that area. Or, even though these are fake, can you destroy them? Whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. They're fake, so you want the PCs to kind of think, is that what they know what they're going for. They're going for this relic, which looks like these things. But it gets them to do that. But even if they're like, that's not the one. Again, they make the investigate check, they know it's not it. It looks like it, but it was a duplicate, but that's not the one. You can tell that it just doesn't have that aura emanating from it. But it still does create a sort of temporary darkness. With this real relic, it's permanent darkness. It's a problem for the world, right? So that's what they have to bring back to the Holy Temple and destroy it. But by creating these bubbles, it gives a place for the lost to move and be within this one or wherever they are. And you can create more. I can have 15 different things in there, depending on how long you want the PCs to have to keep investigating the room. But by creating those things, what it does is whenever it's creating little hot spots for him to be in that give him resistance, that makes the encounter more difficult because now he's got almost double his hit points, basically. But also, you're starting to possibly have some issues in darkness with, he's got advantage on his attacks, which means he's most likely hitting with the embrace attack, which means you're having a harder time dealing with the grapple checks, or you're having to make them more often. And if you get grappled, now it's a major problem because now you're dealing with 68 psychic damage and so on and so forth. So if the embrace is the mechanic that I think can bring some interest, and I want him to hit with that because that's where the grapple comes into play, which is where the psychic damage comes into play, where without the grapple, this whole reaction doesn't mean anything. All of these things come into play, but instead of just saying, I'm going to give him plus 12 to hit, because now you're skewing the challenge rating too much, and you're not sure how that's going to snowball. right? Instead of just saying, well, I need him to hit with the embrace because that's where the grapple comes into play, that's where psychic damage comes into play, that's where tightening embrace comes into play, and so on and so forth. Instead of just upping that, I'm creating more interesting situations throughout the room. I now have darkness that I need to come out. But if it's coming from this object over here, and that's why it's darkness where he's in his element, why not create some duplicate ones? That now feeds into the whole, they're spending their time having to figure out which is the one we need. Do we need to destroy those so that maybe the darkness doesn't? Imagine if each of these auras are this big. Eventually, you're covering the whole room. If I have just one more right here, and then I have an aura, you're almost covering the whole room at that point. There's so much overlapping coverage that the whole thing, he's got resistance through the whole space. And that is how you create something a little more interesting, a little more intriguing. That's the process of taking something random, running through the creative flow of it all. I know it's kind of rambly, but that's the point of the videos, is just showing you where you can slowly start to wrangle things in a little bit. And now I can run with this to my table, not on this for the sake of video, but I can take this off screen and I can just play with this a little bit and start figuring out some mechanics of how large are those radiuses and what spell capabilities do my PCs have where they can deal with that stuff, and can they mage hand those things, you know what I mean? And I can wrangle in the logistics of how it all works, but the process is there. The thought process of creating something interesting and unique, more than just, I want him to hit you all the time. Does he hit you? And is he dead? And so on and so forth. So I hope that helped everyone. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care.